So, Jacqueline Kennedy. I honestly never ever thought that I would be doing a review about her. I mean, think about it. We have so many others who are charismatic, who are popular, who are confident. We've got Dwayne Johnson, we've got Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, basically so many of those from Avengers. And yet, here I am talking about Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. So, how did it really start off? I've been into audiobooks recently, and the one that I'm currently on is Arnold Schwarzenegger's. And we all know that Arnold Schwarzenegger, he married Maria Shriver, right? So in one scene, he actually talks about meeting Jacqueline Kennedy. So he's out promoting his Pumping Iron video, the movie, and there's a lunch which has been masterminded by one of the producers. And in that lunch, Arnold says that Jacqueline Kennedy actually stole the show, right? So just listen to what he actually says about her and her personality and how she made the other person really feel so important.
JFK had been synonymous with America to me as a kid growing up, so meeting Jackie was like a dream. What impressed me most was her sophistication and grace. She'd obviously come prepared because she didn't ask anything clumsy or vague like, "What is this movie about?" Instead, she made me feel that pumping iron was important and that she appreciated what we were trying to do. She asked all kinds of specific questions. How do you train? How do you judge a competition? What's the difference between Mr. Olympia and Mr. America? Would this be something beneficial for my teenage son? At what age can you start with a workout routine? I was predisposed to liking her before we met, and that conversation made me a big fan. Not just my mom, but everyone meeting Jackie for the first time walked away impressed, just as I had been when we'd first been introduced at Elaine's. She talked to everybody, really sat down and engaged in conversation. Having watched her through the years, I could see why she'd been such a popular First Lady. She had an amazing ability to ask questions that would make you wonder, how did she know that? She always made my friends feel welcome when I brought them to Hyannis.
So when I first heard this, I thought this is absolutely fantastic because here's something that we can actually learn from, something that we can actually use in normal conversations with people whom we meet. At say like a dinner party, or if we're invited to friends' houses and there are others whom we've not met for the first time, or there are others whom we are meeting for the first time. The techniques which Jacqueline has actually used over here, we can use. And most of us, right, if we know our history, we know Jacqueline Kennedy, right? So she was a former First Lady. She's been in office while her husband was assassinated, right? A few years later, I believe it was her brother-in-law who was assassinated while on a political campaign. Then after that, she married a Greek shipping tycoon, right? And she vamoosed away from America to live in Greece, and she faced enormous backlash by the American public because she's supposed to be like the quintessential American family. Here she's running away from the country, right? So the entire public was massively against her, and still she comes to Arnold's launch, and she's speaking such good things about him, about what he does. She's asking so many interesting questions, and that only comes from somebody who has learned that skill of making that deeper connection. Yeah, she kind of brings about the most important rule that Dale Carnegie talks about in his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And most of y'all might have already read that book, right? It's make the other person feel important. The more you can go about making the other person feel important, right? You're pretty much like Oprah Winfrey. Right? Now, Oprah has this enormous potential, and she's really fantastic at this. Right? She can go ahead and she can make a deep connection with the other person, irrespective of who that person is. It could be Beyonce, it could be some actor, it could be an actress, it could be a doctor, it could be just general people. But she has an ability of making a deep connection with what they are saying. And that's what Oprah does. And that's exactly the same thing that Jacqueline Kennedy did as well. So how can we actually use this? Do your research about the other person. And I'm going to be the first to admit that this is not the most practical advice of all. This probably would work for like a Joe Rogan, an Oprah Winfrey, or like a Jacqueline Kennedy in this case, right? When you know the other person whom you're going to be meeting, right? You can Wikipedia them, you can search about them, you can find out what are their likes, what are their hobbies, what are their dislikes. It doesn't practically work in normal situations when you're just invited to like a birthday party and you don't really know all the other guests who are coming. You don't know whether they are doctors, whether they're professionals, what do they do, whether they're still in college or anything. But I've kind of expanded this rule into researching about locations and about food, because I've realized that a lot of millennials, they are into experiences, right? So a lot of millennials and what's the next age group? I think Gen Z, Generation Z. Anyway, they are into experiences, right? Because on Instagram, a lot of my friends, they love to go traveling, right? If not to Europe, at least in places in India. They'll visit beaches in Goa and they'll upload pictures of that. They'll upload pictures of the food which they are eating in, say, Shimla. Or they'll go to Leh Ladakh and click pictures of themselves with, the snow-clad mountains in the back. Or they've gone to some place in Kerala, like the houseboats, right? And they take a picture with all the greenery there, or themselves jumping off into some small river which is like 10 or 20 feet below them. Yeah. We've all seen these pictures on Instagram. And that's what I mean by experiences. So when you sort of learn about a location, and especially a location that you actually been to, like for example, if you visited Shimla, Dharamshala, or Goa, or Kerala, right? Think about your experience in that location, your experience in that place. What did you really enjoy about it? And somehow try to bring that into the conversation if possible. And again, I repeat, if possible. If it's sounding odd to actually bring that in, then don't talk about it. The second point, and this is the important one, is start to be genuinely interested in the other person. And the keyword here is genuinely. Right? Take for example this clip of Joe Rogan. Right now, he's talking to Neil deGrasse, who is an astrophysicist. Right? How many of us actually know what the hell is an astrophysicist? Much less what they actually do. And Joe actually talks to him. Now, granted, Joe's been able to do a bit of research about him, but listen to this conversation, right? So Joe is actually interested in different science podcasts. He actually talks about the fact that he's been recording these conversations so that he can watch it at a later date. He takes names of different podcasts. He talks about Morgan Freeman's Through the Wormhole. He talks about Neil deGrasse's Cosmos. And all of this is because Joe is actually interested in this subject. He's actually interested in learning from the other person.
It's a great sign, I think. And I think your podcast is a great sign as well. The success of your podcast and the success of a lot of science podcasts.
That's an excellent note that you noticed that. There's a rise of science-curious podcasts out there.
Stuff to Blow Your Mind is one that I really enjoy.
Right.
I really love Radio Lab. They've always got really interesting science.
The perennial favorite.
Fantastic.
So many people.
Probably the best.
Right.
Yeah, and yours as well. And I love Chuck Nice. Shout out to Chuck Nice.
Oh, Chuck. We all love Chuck.
So keep this in mind, because this is the key. The more that you are interested in what the other person is saying, the more you will do everything else, like your eye contact, your facial expressions, right? You'll be more in tune to what that other person is saying. The third point, which I take away from Jacqueline Kennedy here, is be honest, right? Now, if you listened back to that the first conversation she had from the Arnold book, she talks about things that are actually honest, right? So she asked Arnold, is this something that will be beneficial for my son? Now, who's going to ask that unless she's really, really interested in doing that for her son, right? Nobody wants to see their own children get hurt or do something wrong. So you can tell just by that one simple sentence that Jacqueline was really interested and she was being honest with Arnold. She wasn't just, fluffing, just bullshitting. She was actually interested, right? Joe Rogan and anybody who's ever watched the GRE experience, and Joe Rogan's experience, they'll know that Joe is honest. Right? He isn't just like a yes man where he agrees, nodding his head with everything that his client is saying. He actually has his own opinion, and if he disagrees with something, he's honest about that. If he likes something, again, he's honest about that. Right? So be honest, and don't just be a yes man who agrees with the other person just because you want to make a friend with him. Right? That's kind of something that we would tend to do until maybe the age of 19 or 20. That's something that I did a lot, kind of like a yes man. Something that I've been trying to change a lot now. And the fourth point is about asking questions. Yeah. Jacqueline Kennedy asked a lot of questions. She asked about her son. She asked about what's the difference between Mr. Olympia and Mr. World. She asks about at what age can you really start bodybuilding. She asks about how does this impact the skeletal muscles and everything. Right? I'm going to go back to Joe Rogan, and in this clip again, he's talking with Neil deGrasse, and he's asking a question about reading glasses.
To the telescope. You haven't said anything yet. Oh, you're a good listener. Should I just keep talking, or am I preventing you from interrupting?
Don't worry, keep going. Don't worry about me.
Okay, fine. Galileo perfects the telescope. He learned that it had just been invented in the Netherlands. The Dutch were opticians, all right? So they invented the telescope and the microscope within a couple of years of one another. This transformed science.
When did they invent the eyeglass, the reading glass?
The reading glass, earlier than that, but I don't know when. The real advance was putting two lenses in line with one another. Sounds trivial in modern times, but that was a huge leap, conceptual leap.
So he's actually asking a question to Neil deGrasse about reading glasses and when they were created. And you can tell that Neil really doesn't know about it, right? It's kind of distracted him from his train of thought. But Joe is asking questions, and these questions, they feed it into additional trains of thought, right? It gets the other person to start thinking and to talk about themselves. Isn't that what everybody really loves? Talk about themselves. Like, if somebody comes to me and talks to me about, say, the gym, I would love that because it's something that I'm interested in. Think about the topics which you love. If somebody had to come and ask you about that, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to talk to them at least for 3 to 5 minutes. But imagine if you can do the same thing to the other person. So, guys, the next time that we're in some sort of a situation, maybe, a birthday party where you're invited and you don't really know a lot of the guests, you probably know just a handful of them. Right? When we have these water cooler conversations, and doesn't have to be just at a water cooler, start using these 4 tips. Right? Do your research if possible, be interested in the other person, be honest, especially, and ask questions. It gets the other person talking a lot, and you get to create that really deeper conversation feeling and connection with the other person. Just like Jacqueline Kennedy did